experience of being around water like and all that kind of stuff?
As a child, I spent a lot of time in the water. I come from sort of half Scottish, quarter Welsh, so most of our summer holidays were spent up in the middle of Kintyre, and with all our cousins and stuff, and we'd be in the sea all the time and having a great time. And then Easter was down in Pembrokeshire, so we had all that playground basically, and it was really good. So we had lots of experience and sort of learning about the safety and stuff there as children. But I sort of missed it when I went to uni. I actually went to uni in Nottingham, so I kind of disconnected from the swimming world when I went there, which is quite ironic now that I know there's so much swimming there. Yeah. But yeah, when I came back, I sort of I got jobs in pubs basically, and I started managing pubs for Green King, and then I ended up in Thames Ditton at a pub here, which was right on the river, and that's kind of how I started my connection with the river. I met my other half, we got together, I moved on, and then we discovered the narrowboat was too small, so we bought this one. And we've been here ever since.
Yeah. And can you swim just like straight outside of where you are now?
Yeah, so we're on an island in the middle of the Thames. We've got no access, so you have to get here by dinghy, which is, I actually don't mind it even if it's raining. I quite like the getting beaten around by the weather a bit. But yeah, I've got a swimming ladder, so I put that off the side of the boat and I can just jump in.
Cool. So in terms of like the Thames Mermaid, where did that nickname come from?
I actually can't remember. Someone, I think it was one of our swim group, just started calling it me, and then it stuck really.
But like me, you've had that feeling of being a bit landlocked, and I think I made quite a few assumptions that moving from the coast to Nottingham, like that, well, that's it. I've left the sea, and it was like a massive thing for me, you know, like,
yeah.
like it felt like a really big decision to come and be with a partner inland.
Yeah.
I just wrote swimming off for a number of years until getting back into it recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can sort of relate to that feeling. So did you swim at all during that period?
Yes, because I used to swim competitively. I used to swim for Wickham County when I grew up in Oxfordshire, so I swam in pools around there. So I've always been a swimmer, so I've just continued that. Hi, Isabel. I swam with Isabel this morning. So I've just continued that really, but just not competitively. I just love swimming, and I've always wanted to have it in my life. I did try when I was at uni, just other things get in the way, don't they? Like having fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So in terms of like have you had any moments where you feel like you've been around the water and it's sort of helped you? Like, can you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the reasons I've started doing it more regularly is because I got quite a lot of pain. I used to take painkillers every day for like joint pains, back pains, and various other things. And since doing cold water swimming, I do it most days, and I don't take painkillers anymore. So that's been a massive change. I just generally feel better. I'm a nicer person to be around. I'm sure my other half will confirm that. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has that effect. But yeah, it's just, I just feel better, more positive about everything. I can deal with stress better. I think it's because the cold shock, it helps you deal with stress. I just find that if I'm in a stressful situation, I don't get as overwhelmed with things as I used to. I don't know if that's growing up or to do with cold water, but it's probably a bit of both. I say growing up, I mean getting a bit older, not actually growing up.
No, swimming's giving you some kind of eternal youth or something, yeah. But no, it was. And in terms of like the positive, so it's mainly around pain that you get the positive effects and help with your mental health.
Yeah, definitely, and the fitness. I mean, I really love being in the water, and I always have been, no matter how cold it is or warm it is. But I think the cold water, I've discovered that it's got a lot of benefits, and I want to sort of carry on with that.
Yeah.
I'd rather do that than go to a pool.
So in terms of doing the recent swims that you've done, like the non-tidal swim of the River Thames, can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so I think it's probably a couple of months ago now, my friend Fiona and I finished swimming the length of the non-tidal Thames, which is 218 something miles, I think it is. I mean, it took us 2 years. We didn't do it in one go. But we had a great time. We didn't rush it. We took in every moment, and I videoed every moment. So yeah, it's all on my YouTube channel, every single swim that we did. We raised some money for the Rivers Trust as well. That was great. Yeah, it just took 2 years. It was really great, and I built a really good friendship with Fiona. We had a few other people join us along the way, but it was basically us two most of the time. So we'd walk up. We did a lot of it during lockdown, so we couldn't share cars. So we did actually walk a lot of the path as well. So we'd park at the end, walk up about 2 or 3 miles, and then swim back to the car. So we did that each time, really.
Right. So 2 years of doing that then. So yeah. Like, have you got any key moments from that you sort of, what was the most beautiful place?
There's so many. I mean, I think the most iconic one for me was swimming past Windsor Castle. I mean, that was pretty special. There was a lot of swans there, but apart from the swans, it was great. Swimming at Clevedon, which is really beautiful. It's a National Trust area, outstanding, beautiful place, and it's sort of really wide river there. I think there was 4 of us on that stretch, so we were all just loving it. We rolled out at Marlow. That was quite funny, because the place we were supposed to get out, there was loads of swans there, so we couldn't get in. So we had to sort of find somewhere else, and we literally rolled out like beached whales, really, really not elegant at all. And there was this family standing there watching us. It was quite embarrassing, but it was also very funny. I can't remember anymore. There's so many. I don't know. Wallingford was very beautiful.
Yeah. And what about the sort of challenge? What about the days where you rocked up and you were like, oh my God, this was a hard one?
Actually, swimming to Runnymede was really hard. I think it was colder. The water was getting colder, and we swam about an extra mile more than we were expecting to. And we were sort of really over it by the end of it. But generally, we were pretty well-spirited and quite positive. We make sure we eat enough so we don't get like hangry, which I do get hangry quite easily. So Fiona's very good at, like, I'll always have emergency snacks and stuff. Mostly just for peace of mind, so I don't feel like I'm not going to make it.
So did you scope out the swims before you did them, or do you do it on the day? Or
I use an Ordnance Survey map to sort of map the swim, and it gives you the distance. So I can approximately measure the distance of the swim, and then I have to research where we could park at both ends and use Google Earth to try and find like get-in points, or using the OSS Thames Facebook group to ask them if there's like good places to park or get in on various stretches. So there's a lot of call outs for help, and we did get a lot of help. But yeah, it was generally me just plotting out the route and hoping for the best, really. But because it was the 2 of us and we're really sort of confident with each other, we know what we can handle, we're quite sure we can cope with most things, so it's fine.
and in terms of like the artwork and stuff, when did that, how long's that been part of what you do, and is it, yeah, just talk us through that sort of journey that's running alongside things, I guess.
Well, it's a lot like my swim, really. I've always done it. I've been creative all through my educational years and just carried it on, really. It's the one thing that I've always been able to do and love doing. So I've always tried to do it. Obviously, I've done jobs where I couldn't do it sort of as a job. So I've worked in pubs and done pub management, event management, various other things. And it's kind of taken a back foot then. But I went through a period where I've got epilepsy basically, and I went through a period where I had to change over my meds. And during that period, I had all sorts of awful side effects, including like suicidal thoughts and things like that, which actually, in the end, I lost my job. So I was here on the boat with no job, and I thought, well, I've got to just start my own business and try and make it work, basically. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah.
So yeah, thankfully it does work, and I can make a bit of money out of it. I've got a few other online shops that I run as well. So with them all joined together, kind of nicely ticking over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the waters seems to have, has that been a part of getting through that difficult time with your meds and everything like that?
Yeah, I couldn't actually swim for a lot of it. I mean, I don't actually remember a lot of it because it was horrible. I think I've erased it from my memory. But yeah, I couldn't swim because it wasn't safe, because I could have had a seizure.
Yeah.
I had to wear I don't normally wear a life jacket. I had to wear a life jacket just crossing to go to the mainland all the time. It was quite a worrying time, really, living on an island, being
Wow.
epileptic. It's not ideal in the best of times, but
Yeah. No,
generally it's great. It doesn't affect me, but it did affect me for a year or so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, it's nice that it's like, you know, you come out the other side of that and everything.
Yeah.
But going back to the sort of art work and everything, like one of the things at the charity, like we're doing, like, you know, we've got the our next thing we're going to do is like a poetry evening around Christmas, just something that's a bit different, and try and
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of people that write poetry around water. So it's just like what the charity is trying to do in a way is just trying to say any positive activity you do, like mindfulness or artwork or poetry or whatever it is, like you're just getting that extra hit if you do it around water. Is that something that you think's the case? I mean, judging by the artwork, it seems to be, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. It definitely affects my artwork. I mean, I used to do a lot of like wildflowers and things that weren't particularly related to the water, but just things that I saw like when I was on holiday. My parents have got somewhere in Transylvania,
Wow.
and there's a lot of wildflowers there.
Yeah.
They've got a food business there. So I've got a lot of inspiration from there. And then people asked me to do swimming things, and I was a bit reluctant at first because it just wasn't my style, but it slowly crept in and has become my style. So I think it's just me evolving as an artist, really. I think that's just what happens.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So living on the narrowboat, then, like I say, it does sound idyllic, but it sounds like it's definitely a bit of a mission. When I looked into it, people were like, well, you do realise you've got to really think about showering and everything and being super organised, which I'm not. I'm definitely one person that picks things up and doesn't leave them in the right place. So yeah, what's that like? What's it's sort of day to day? What's your day to day living like?
Well, it's a Dutch barge. This is. We used to have a narrowboat, and it was just too small. It was 70 foot, but very narrow. So this one is 40 meters long and 4 meters wide. So it's a lot bigger. We've got a lot more space, and we've renovated it ourselves. So we've got it exactly how we want it, really. So we've got a nice big king size. We've got a shower room and underfloor heating and a big kitchen and living room and this bull house, which my other half built. So yeah, it's great. I can't complain. But we've done it all ourselves, and it took about 8 years. So it wasn't easy. And it certainly wasn't cheap. I mean, people think living on the river is going to be a cheap option. It's not at all.
Yeah. No. Well, no. That's what one of the Yeah, it's interesting you say that because yeah, because a lot of people do think it's going to be super cheap, don't they? And they're evading bills and all sorts of stuff like that. But
Mm.
you find it's not really the case.
No, because you have to pay river tax. So you pay river tax for every vessel. So we've
Yeah.
got 4. So it's per metre. So this one's the biggest, obviously. And then you pay, so that's the Environment Agency, and then you pay a mooring fee as well, which are really difficult to get hold of, especially for a boat this size. And then you pay all the usual bills, so electrics and stuff. We've got internet, obviously. We've got fibre optic, whatever you call it. But yeah, it's not cheap at all, but we love it. And apparently we've got the best mooring on the river, so can't complain.
Yeah, you've got a nice bit of real estate, but yeah,
Yeah,
not as cheap as what people think. So yeah, it sounds like it's almost like a floating house that you've got. So,
yeah.
and in terms of doing your artwork, have you designed it so that you're facing a certain way, or can you just move around and use the space? And
Not really. It's basically the kitchen table.
yeah,
My other half is very understanding. We don't eat at the table anymore. We just eat on the laps. But it's only the 2 of us, so it's
yeah,
not really a problem. But yeah, it's fine. I try not to make up too much, and I tidy up every day. So I'm quite a tidy artist, I think.
that's good.
I think you have to be when you live on a boat. I mean, it's so easy for things to sort of get cluttered, and then your mind starts to be messy then, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You have a clearer mind if things are tidier, generally.
yeah. Oh, definitely. So yeah, we'll break into the rooms in a moment and stuff. One question I did want to ask you just quickly is how, like you said that did you get some sponsorship or something from the Rivers Trust, or you raised money
Yeah.
for them? Was that around ecological type stuff, and how did your relationship, like being in the Thames and seeing it from that sort of almost source to, however you describe it, did that change the way you thought about the river and seeing it in its almost entirety and the flow and, like...
I think, yeah, a combination of living on it and being in it all the time has really helped me understand it more. I think I understand it more than most, probably. I can look at it and tell you if there's a bit of a current or but yeah, I've definitely noticed that it's not as clean as it used to be, but parts of it are, parts of it aren't. There's bits which, I mean, around Reading was the worst bit. It was really polluted at Reading. We got covered in diesel and all sorts of stuff. But generally it's actually quite clean. We've only had a few days where it's been really stinky, but that was like a really agricultural area and it had been raining heavily. So we were literally covered in cow shit.
Right.
But yeah, that's just how it is. We had to do the swim. That's part of the challenge. I've never been ill from it.
No.
So we just don't put our heads in.
No, the only time I've been ill is from swimming in London, but that was in the Docklands.
Oh yeah.
So I swam there when I did a triathlon once down there.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. But I could definitely, I've always got my mouth open when I'm swimming. Like, no matter where I'm swimming, I'm not very good at, I think I need to
I always have my mouth open, but I never swallow it. So
yeah,
I think that's the difference.
Probably is, but I could definitely taste like petrol, or I think aviation fuel gets dropped in there or something.
Oh really?
Well, that's what someone told me, but yeah, it was, the taste of the water was definitely the sort of the worst that I'd sort of tasted. I don't know if it was just got a bad day in there, but I can't imagine that's a typical experience of the Thames, the Docklands. So yeah.
Well, I can see the bottom of here at the moment, so it's pretty clear at the moment. But it's just we just had that big storm come through, so
It'll wash everything.
All the storm drains are emptying into the river, and
yeah.
we had a good run.
Cool.
We made the most of it.
Well, I think like we can split into some, just into 2 rooms, just so we can say hi to each other and stuff. I might moved Juliet into the other room after a few minutes, just so she can have a little bit more of an intimate hello to a few of you. But please think of and save some questions for coming back into the main room, so we can have a wider chat and a bit more of a exploration of Juliet's life and everything. And yeah, so if I do that now, I'll break you into rooms. Please pop your cameras on. Please say hello. Swimmers seem to be the friendliest people that I've ever met from anywhere, so I'm sure it'll all be great. But we always come with that health warning that please be respectful of each other and everything like that.
No naked shots, please.
Yes, we don't want any of that and stuff like that. That's not part of the charity if that happens, I can assure you. But yeah, we'll do that quickly. It'll be for about 15 minutes. So I'll probably bring you back around 20 past and stuff like that. I do pop and just say a final good night to my kids now. So she's gone. I think she's trying to. It's someone's the unmute thing, isn't it?
No, that was me. I asked a question about how fast the flow was, and I thought that was quite interesting for people who weren't in our group.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I'm not a river swimmer. I do occasionally swim in rivers, but actually we swim in reservoirs up here, even though we're not supposed to, because there isn't anywhere else. So I'm quite nervous at swimming in rivers, if I'm honest. You know, I'm quite kind of.
I swim in big black eddies, and I know 2 in a 1.5 mile stretch on the river, and I can do them when the water is below my stated level of 1.35 meters, and I can do an uphill swim.
Yeah, we've got an eddy at the front of our island that I can walk up to the end of the island if the river's running really fast, and I can get in there and know that I'll be safe there. But also, for some reason I couldn't go to the other end, but I let the back of the boat out, so I created a little pool at the back, so the boat was protecting me from the flow of the river, and I was just swimming in the little pool, and it was great.
Wow.
Yeah, I've not done that in a while. Well, I don't need to. It's not rained that much, so the river's been swimmable.
I never thought of getting in an eddy. But,
Question.
Go on, yeah.
My question was, how do you get on when there's a really, really serious flood?
We just get on.
It's scary, is it?
Yeah, it can be quite scary. When I first moved on, I was having nightmares about it, but I think I'm over it now. It's just how it is now. I quite like it.
Jump off and take the ropes further in, or something, anything like this?
Yeah, we loosen the ropes because the river will go up and down during the day, as they let the water through the locks or open the Teddington lock. But we've got a few different lines out, so they kind of, if you loosen the ropes, it will still be quite steady and not move around too much. So we've got springer lines in the middle that will just hold it in position, but it still can not be sort of too tight, if that makes sense.
Have you come across neighbours or people that you know who have had calamities, you know, being washed away or anything like that, or is it generally containable?
Generally, the people in the houses have the problems. I mean, we just go up and down, but the house, there's a main island that has a bridge, and they generally get flooded every year, at least once a year. Yes, they're all very dramatic. We just get on with it.
I suppose if it's a good stout boat, it's a good place to be in a flood, isn't it?
I know, it's great.
It's wetter.
I mean, I've just got used to it now, and I mean, it just makes life a bit more exciting, to be fair.
Are you nice and sheltered so you don't get big pieces of driftwood banging into you?
Yeah, I mean, we're made of steel, so we're quite solid. I mean, we do get a few things hitting the boat, but the current takes it out to the other side, so we don't generally get too much, unless the people from the island put stuff in, then we get their crap. But that's generally garden waste. I mean, I've seen a television float by, and sofas and stuff like that, all sorts.
We've got a tree about 10 metres long, a big chunk of a tree.
Yeah.
My favourite beach. And in last year's January floods, this tree was somewhere well upstream. but during the flood, it came to our swimming place, got into the back eddy, and as the water came up and up and up, it's now about 20 yards away from the river, and it's a big sprawly tree, and we hung our coats on it. It's brilliant.
Well, that's handy.
But the power that to bring a thing like that up
Yeah.
is just almost unimaginable.
I do find, I find it quite interesting and mesmerizing, the power of the water that just continuously rushing past. I mean, that's a lot of water to just continuously go. I mean, it comes from somewhere and then goes to the sea, and it's just amazing. It just continues.
Yeah, the absolute force of nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah. But yeah, it's great to be living on it and not being flooded every year.
So I've got a random question. So you mentioned the pub where you worked and you met your partner, which is by the canal. Is that where you met your partner, in the pub? And where is your local pub then now?
My local pub is the one we met in. It's literally where I'm more up on the mainland. So it's like 2 minutes there.
Yeah. So you pop across in a little boat and you can have a drink over there and pop back.
Yeah. It's also where I have my parcels delivered, which is quite handy. Because that's the problem, because we've got a post box for like small things on the mainland, which is basically a brick box with the island name on it. But the parcels have to go to the pub because they're bigger. But it's quite handy because I work there. They're fine with it.
So what pub I'm not stalking you here, Juliet. I'm just wondering what pub it is. I'd really like to see, the like I'm a bit sad. I like to look on a map now after what you've described and look down and work out where the island is and all that.
You'll probably see our boat. The island's called Boyle Farm Island.
Yeah.
Part of the Boyle Farm estate. And the pub is called Ye Olde Swan. Very old pub. Henry VIII used to go there. So I'm about a mile from Hampton Court Palace. Yeah. So when the weather's nice, I'll get my other half to give me a lift across to the towpath. I'll walk up to the palace and then swim home. And that's about a mile. But yeah, about a mile. Oh. It's a really nice swim.
That just sounds unbelievable.
And actually during lockdown, because I was kind of like, my safest option was to swim, because the towpath, the walkway, was full of people and the river was empty. So I got my other half to drop me off in the middle of the river up by the palace, and then I'd swim home, and that was my daily exercise. And I had the whole river to myself. It was brilliant. So I was just swimming down the middle of the river.
Do you do that now? Because, like, you said you were a competitive swimmer.
Yeah.
Do you do that as a training swim, or do you do that as a head up, chill out, absorb yourself, or a mixture of both? Or
it depends how I'm feeling. I really like a sunset swim, so that'll be a heads up, taking it all in and trying to get home before it's dark. But like on a summer's day, it's like just swim for hours and hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you'd have goggles on, hats on, all that kind of stuff, and be going for it. Yeah. Yeah. And then what was that experience of singing under the bridges? I've got that right, haven't I?
Yeah. Well, I run a group called Surrey Outdoor Swimmers, and we haven't done it for a while because it sort of stopped because of lockdown and everything. We used to swim in quite big groups, and we used to swim like at Chertsey, Hampton Court. We still do, but we just don't do the singing bit. But basically, we got to Chertsey Bridge and we all started singing ABBA, and I recorded it on my GoPro and sort of shared it, and we got a lot of shares and stuff. So.
Yeah. So it was just an impromptu thing. It wasn't like an organised thing.
Oh no, it wasn't organised at all.
Not yet, but like at least on it quiet together, you sound like someone that might have a London branch.
We've got a lot of good singers, and actually the lady that set up the group, her other half is a conductor and conducts a choir, so there's definitely potential for something there.
Cool. Any more questions, guys, from you guys?
Can I ask, Juliet, about swimming on your own and swimming with other people? What sort of proportion of your swimming is which, and what your experience? I've never swum on my own in a river or in the sea, actually, only in a pool. So just like to hear.
Well, I absolutely love sharing the swim experience, and it's one of my biggest joys in life is like sharing that and enjoying the laughter, and also introducing new people to it and seeing how they react to the water and stuff. I really love that. But I also really love swimming on my own, and I like being on my own. I'm very happy with my own self. So just going out and exploring. I mean, I'll go up into mountains and swim in lakes on my own and stuff.
Wow.
And I'm quite happy with that. I love the adventure of it and discovering places, and I quite like the slight risk element as well. It makes me feel a bit more adventurous. I mean, my dad's a bit of an explorer. He's done all sorts of things in his lifetime. I think I kind of take after him a bit. He's a mountaineer though, so a bit different.
And I think it's interesting, isn't it, that with the a lot of the standard messaging is never getting on your own, isn't it? And certainly the charity's not here saying that people should, and not linked to charity. You know, I'll swim on my own, but I don't know about you, Juliet, but I do take a safety approach to it, similar to like if someone was going to have a hike up Ben Nevis on their own or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not like but I'll let Juliet talk through how she sort of does that, maybe.
Well, no, definitely, and I've learned that from my dad. I mean, he's organised expeditions up Kilimanjaro and all sorts of places, so I've learned a lot from him on how to deal with things and risk assess and all that sort of thing. And actually, just from living on the river and being here all the time and understanding the weather and like watching the clouds and how the rainfall will affect the flow in like a few days' time, and how it can change like within the hour or minutes. You have to kind of take all these things into consideration. I mean, as a good example of this, I went to Wales, climbed up a mountain, and then it started to blizzard, and I'd planned to swim across this lake, which obviously I was going to do because that's why I went. So I started to get changed, and then the blizzard was coming in, so I was getting changed, putting all my stuff in my dry bag, and started to swim across the lake with all my stuff, like you do in a blizzard, and it was amazing. And I had a bit of a scary moment in the middle when I thought, oh, I'll have a look in the water and see what it's like, and I was like, oh my god, it's dark. And then I was like, get a grip, it's fine, it's just water, there's not any monsters in here. So I swam across the lake, got changed, and then went home. It was brilliant, loved it, one of my best swims ever.
Fantastic.
It was a blizzard, it was really cold. But yeah, I just sort of, I believe in myself for a start, that helps. I know my limits. I don't write anything down, but you kind of you go through what could happen, scenario sort of things, and sort of work out where you're going to get out before you get in and that sort of thing. And also tell people where you're going, that's very important. And sort of check in with people after a certain amount of time, because then they know you're safe and don't have to worry. And, you know, it's quite selfish to go off and expect people not to worry when you're doing these things. So at least give them the courtesy of saying that you're fine.
Yeah. I think it's really nice to hear that, because, you know, I've not got epilepsy, but I know people that have, and I know that, you know, that can be a real sort of barrier to things, but you found a way to.
I generally don't think about it, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think I actually remember when I was first diagnosed, when I was a teenager, I had my first seizure on the netball court. It was really embarrassing, obviously. Got carried off. But I remember when I went to the doctors about it, and they were telling me all these things I can't do. And I got out and told my mum, I'm going to do all these things. I'm not going to let it rule my life. And that's that. So I actually didn't read all those leaflets that were there to scare me. I found out the information that was necessary for like living and surviving, but didn't scare myself with all the other crap, and just got on with my life. I didn't want to be a victim. I just wanted to have a good life, and I have so far.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience when I was 15. I had rheumatic fever. I was off school for a year, and I was off my bike, I was off the football pitch, I was out of the swimming pool, all these things. And I went back to the doctor after a few months from being released again. I said, look, when I'm walking to school and passing all the other kids, my heart must be sort of okay. Can I go back and do these things? He said, well, only with great caution, listen to yourself. So on the back of that, I ran 25 marathons when I was in my 40s. And I've come to swimming only because my hip wore out, and because I'm a hopeless swimmer, but I just love doing it.
Yeah.
I stepped off into a swim, and ages later I finished behind the others.
No, but it's the doing it that's the most important part.
And I do a lot of it on my own.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's quite tricky finding swimming partners when you're 80 and as ugly as death.
Well, that's the great thing about the swimming community, I found. I mean, the Outdoor Swimming Society is where my connection with other swimmers began. And it's just, I'm connected with thousands of people now. I mean, I think anywhere you go in the world, you could say, I'm going to this place. Does anyone want to go for a swim? And generally it's a yes.
Yeah. And that's lovely, isn't it? It's such a, like, yeah, bonding thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I would agree with that. I was just saying that our local Facebook site, which is Sheffield Outdoor Plungers, we've got 9,000 people on that site now. Now, they're not all Sheffield people,
Yeah,
but we also have a spin-off group called Super Swims, I think it's called. I think it's called something like that. And that's where people can organise swims. But a lot of people do swim alone, you know, so we've got quite a few people, Kathy, you know, who do go out regularly and swim alone. And I just thought what you said, Juliet, was absolutely spot on. You know, that whole thing about knowing your limits, you know, and being kind of careful, you know, about knowing what, having your scenarios worked out. I mean, I don't tend to swim on my own because I quite like the social element of it. But the times when I have swum on my own, when I've been away, you know, I'm just always really super cautious, especially if it's somewhere I don't normally swim, because it's usually when I'm swimming on my own is somewhere that I've not swum before.
Yeah.
So I think it's very different. It is very different when you're on your own. I mean, I do sometimes kind of swim away from others that I'm swimming with, because, and we all do, you know, like have a bit of quiet time, you know, on our own in the space. But it's one of those tortured things. And you're right, Scott, you know, you get a lot of chitter chatter from the mainstream messaging about not swimming on your own. And I kind of understand where they're coming from, because they're trying to speak to the non-habitual swimmers, really.
And they're also covering their own asses, so they don't want to
absolutely. But it does tend to kind of set up a bit of an unfortunate dynamic when people admit that they swim on their own, and there can be a little bit of a piling on of saying, oh well, I'm not sure you should, you know.
I got a lot of that during lockdown because I was swimming and other people weren't swimming. There was a lot of bitterness.
Yeah.
So I completely understand. I mean, but
it's often people's own anxieties coming out, isn't it? You know, it's not really to do with that person, because you don't know that person's capabilities. And but I think what I'm struck by is the more that I know about the subject, the more I'm struck by the fact that really the people who tend to get into trouble are the people who don't normally swim on a regular basis. So it's not that habitual swimmers never get into trouble, because they do. But actually, when you look at the statistics for who gets into trouble and sadly who loses their lives, it's usually people who haven't intended to get into the water, or they're like those kids that you described, Alan, you know, who'd never been to that bit of the river before, and they were like, oh, it's a nice day, let's have a go, you know. And
where not to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but
Yeah.
you know, so I don't know, I will swim on my own, but it's not something I choose often to do, you know. I
think
quite
probably
like
I wouldn't as much if I wasn't here and it was just there. I mean, if I'm working all day and I just want to have a change of scenery, that's what I'll do, because otherwise I'll just be on the boat all day. But actually, now you mention it, the group swimming is really good for that as well, because otherwise I wouldn't really talk to anyone. So it makes me go out and socialise.
I think swimming in groups, I did a lot when I first started to go into open water, and I learned an awful lot from the people I was swimming with. Such after a while, I was happy to go and do it on my own, and it's actually rather like going for a walk, except going for a walk can be a bit more dangerous. There are things to trip over, aren't there, and bang into.
Yeah, I've had more accidents on land than I have in the water, definitely.
And I think as well, it's really interesting. I think, well, Rachel Andrews did a really good YouTube video about water safety and swimming on your own. And that sort of misconception that actually just because you're with somebody, it almost comes across with some of the messaging that just because you're with somebody, automatically you are safe. Like that, what you're both getting in. So when one person gets in danger, they automatically grab onto whatever they can, which is close to them. So actually, in some respects, there's added danger if you get into the water with a mindset and an experience, which was described. There can be a heightened danger around two people not knowing exactly what they're doing something together, you know.
And actually, if you're swimming with other people, they can distract you from being alert to what's going on around you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite, it sounds a bit corny, but I am quite in tune with the river and what's going on around me because I'm always in it.
Yeah.
I think that's just how I am now. But yeah, you do find if you're with other people that you're distracted from it and don't often see things that you should see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not been a problem so far. That's weird.
Well, people stay in, you know, they stay in too long, or they, you know, feel that they should go a little bit further maybe than they shouldn't. But I have to say, I think one of the things about our swimming community is that people are really good at saying to people, you know, it's really not a problem. You know, I think there's something about the kind of the outdoor swimming community. It's fairly non-competitive, you know. I mean, there are competitive swimming groups, and that's fine, and I'm not dissing them. You know, that's who they are, and they have their own culture and their own kind of social norms, and that's fine. You know, I've got a problem with that at all. But I think what I really like about our community is that people are very supportive. They're pretty much non-judgmental. You know, you get the odd little spat going on every now and again, but very rarely.
Very inclusive.
Very inclusive.
I mean, don't really care what you look like. You can turn up in your whatever. Yeah. Barely dressed.
So I think, or not. Yeah.
No, it's great, and that's one of the things I love about it. You can just be yourself, and that's fine. Which actually in general life. Go on.
I once had a row with my friend because I tried to turn her into a mermaid and didn't succeed. I'm telling you about it, wasn't I, Scott?
Yeah.
Another day. Would you like to hear about her?
Yeah, I think you can. Well, we're going to have an evening of poetry, aren't we? So we did.
This is a taste. This is my friend. I swim with in the River Dove. The poem's called "It's a Date with a Mermaid." It's called. I'm fixed up to go on a date with a mermaid. Oh, well, it makes a change from ogling the barmaid. Most of the time she walks round on two limbs. She needs extra zest, incantations and hymns. Then she will get a magnificent tail. If the ritual is wrong, transformation will fail. What we most need is a beautiful river. Then supernatural force will deliver. She'll become a pretty superb Ondina, but I'm hoping the process is not too obscene. Since I'm afraid at approach of the day, I take my wife to ensure there's fair play. The setting is sylvan, the water looks still, but an urgent flow tries to shock us and thrill. We swim like two graceful swans up the stream, but the mermaid vision remains just a dream. I decide that now is the time to get bossy. This is the moment to throw off your cossie. She does so and waves it high in the sky and flings it away with a triumphant cry. And there she stands, revealed in her glory. She's really quite good in the uppermost story, but alas, she still remains stuck in her plight. Her legs are still sulking, refuse to unite. No maritime influence, no fishy scales, no sinuous muscles, and no finny tails. Oh dear, she grumbled, my arms and legs ache. Let's go to mine for hot chocolate and cake.
Very good. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, we're definitely going to try and gather a few people together that are writing poems and stuff, just to see how that works over Christmas. And I think Kathleen Watton was going to come along to that because she's written some poetry. And Alan's an ex-English teacher, aren't you, Alan? So it's nice to have...
I am an English teacher. I'm an ex all sorts of things.
all sorts of things that can help with proceedings and co-host that kind of evening. So yeah, it should be nice to do something a little bit different at Christmas, if you know people that might be interested.
That's good.
And yeah, I was just going to say to you, Isabel, as well, Owen Heyman, and he's the guy that set up stuff. I'd love to have got him on here. I've spoken to him a couple of times. No, I've spoken to him once, actually. I know he's incredibly busy doing his gardening. I think Alan knows Owen as well, don't you? But I think he'd make...
Oh, Owen. We've got him a tree. It's a Norfolk pine.
Oh, right, okay.
Wife's nurturing it. So when we pass on, Owen Heyman's going to have our tree.
Ah, well, that'll be good. Well, that won't be good, but no.
It's a trained horticulturalist, not just a swimmer and diver.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like Owen, I just love the description of Owen getting into the lake in Sheffield for the first time at university and breaking those social barriers. He's such a pioneer, similar to like seeing things that I saw of Alan swimming and stuff, and all our guests really, all pioneering things in different ways and stuff. It's lovely.
The pioneering thing that Owen did was he did it publicly.
Yeah,
there's been people swimming in reservoirs for donkey's years.
Yeah.
They just did it very kind of like surreptitiously. The pioneering thing and the brilliant thing that Owen did was get it out there and have the audacity to set up an open group to do it. And he really got under the skin of the water companies doing that. You know, they're pretty, I think they're still pretty kind of cross about it all. So that was the pioneering bit, you know, because people say, oh, you can't swim in reservoirs, but people have been doing it for decades. You know, I mean, it's not new, but the new thing is that there's now the volume of people, thanks to Owen, you know. So I agree with you. He's a real inspiration, and he's great he's a fabulous speaker on the subject. But I'd be surprised if you'd get hold of him at the moment because he is just so busy with his cause.
Yeah. Well,
sadly. Yeah. But you could put the word, you know, there's other people.
We've only got one slot left, though, I think. We've got one slot left up till March. So
okay.
That nicely links into, we've got I'll go through the guest list in a minute. I'll just call it back up on my computer, actually. So any other questions or anything else, but I can bring that up and just sort of talk through it, because I'll forget somebody that's on it, and that's sacrilege, isn't it? So any other questions for Juliet?
I suppose what's next, Juliet? So you've done your Thames swim. You've got your art.
This is
What's
the problem.
next on the? You've done your boat.
Well, we swam the Jubilee not that long ago, the Jubilee River, but that only took 3 weeks. I'll probably do the river, what's it called? Oh my God, the River Way. We'll probably do that. It's a bit more challenging though, because there's no ladders at the locks, because it's not as well established as the Thames. But
Oh, so you're going to do, are they tributaries?
yeah, they do go into the Thames, but yeah, they're just smaller and they're not as big. The problem is we've done the big one. So I don't know, but we're going to go sailing, so who knows? Going to buy a yacht.
Great.
So we shall see. Watch this space.
Have you got some background in that?
Yeah, we've done a bit of sailing before. We're going to the Pearl Islands in February to sail with some friends. So we'll give us a proper month of sailing there.
We bought a yacht and an instruction book. He was a teacher in the same school as me, and he didn't turn up on Monday morning. Finished up. He wasn't very good at navigating and finished up in Belgium. This was in Southend.
Well, to be fair, my partner Glenn bought the narrowboat. He'd never been on a boat before, and we're still here. So
yeah, I'm sure you will be.
We'll wing it.
He was. His geography class on the Monday afternoon was complete rubbish. I think he fell fast asleep.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We like a challenge, so.
Well, I think it's been fantastic, guys, this evening. So thanks, Juliet. I'll just let you guys know a little bit about who's coming on next. So we've got, after Christmas, we've got Amy Ritchie, who's living up in Fife in Scotland, and she's basically set up a swimming group up there from sort of nothing, like all the swimming groups that have sort of happened and stuff. She's got 2 children who suffer with autism, and they swim as part of this swimming group, and they're at primary school, I think. And this group's become so strong, which is starting to happen a little bit, that through social prescribing, I think direct referrals from GPs, people are starting to access it, and it's starting to be something that's actually tackling sort of people that are, we've all got mental health, haven't we? You know, at the end of the day, you say it's a mental health problem, but sort of catching it at that early stage in the spectrum, hopefully, so that it's just something. I never want it to sound like, oh, just go and get in the sea and you'll be fine. Actually, I'm finding that for some people that is the case, but it's not everybody, you know. So it's nice to hear that story where people are actually making that kind of difference.
If people going in the summer, first of all, and there's a lot of jumping in November, December, January, and I think a proportion of them are probably going to be a bit discouraged just by how hostile it can be. Yeah,
definitely.
I don't know, our group, we started it on the 1st of January. That's amazing.
Yeah.
2,000 members now.
Amazing, isn't it? And then we've got a lady called Jo Gifford coming on, who's written she's written a book around, and it's linked to swimming. I've yet to have like my pre-chat with her properly, but she, you know, all intents and purposes, she sounds really interesting. And then there's another guy from up in Scotland who set up a group, and it's about men's mental health, and he's swimming in the sea. There's a guy called Cuddy. He's coming on. And then we're going to have one of our own coming on, Katie, who's a lady that she's basically a life coach, and she helps out quite a lot with the charity, but she's got her own really interesting story. She runs a lake in Hoveringham near Nottingham where Andrew swims, and unfortunately she lost her husband through suicide, and you know, as part of recovering from that, she's immersed herself in sort of water, swimming, and she's now running a lake, and She's running her own life coaching business, and she's an ultra runner and all sorts of stuff. So she's going to come on and talk through her story. And then to end things, it's yet to be properly confirmed, but Kath Pendleton popped on to a couple of our shows. I don't know, people probably know Kath from the BBC.
I've swum with her a few times. I
Yeah.
swim with her when I go to Wales. I swim with her.
She's lovely, isn't she?
Yeah, really nice.
So she's hopefully going to bring things home for us for our last one. She's just double checking a diary. She sent me a phone number and we've had a few chats and things. So we're hoping we get Kath Pendleton on, and that last one will be the 29th of March. So the dates yet to be filled are the 15th of March and the 15th of February. But apart from that, going once every 2 weeks now till 29th of March, we've got people booked in. So
Brilliant.
That'll be great. Any final questions for Juliet, guys? Or any final thank yous? Or...
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been really nice. I love talking about swimming, so happy days.
Well, that was great. Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
And particularly you, Juliet, for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll pop the recording on YouTube. I'll edit out some of the bits in the middle where people are moving around stuff. So please follow us on there. We're not asking for anything at the moment, and we never will ask for anything in terms of like money up front for anything. If people can afford it, we're just about to get a donate button, so don't worry. If people can afford it, we will just say it's great if you can throw us a few pounds, and we've got our first bit of merchandising stuff that we've got, but it's just our blue tonic hats, if you can see those. So they'll be going on sale in the next week or so. They'll be getting up there, so might make a nice...
Don't fit over my head, unfortunately.
Won't they? We'll have to get... Yeah,
have to have big ones.
Yeah, do you know, like we're gonna get a bit of a range, and I really like the idea of having the, you know, like the I saw a group of synchronized women swimmers with the hats, the old sort of 20s style hats, but
oh yeah,
Jane just couldn't get what I meant, but I saw them all with the matching hats, and I thought they looked really cool, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
There's loads of stuff out there you can get done.
Yeah. But thanks, everybody.
No,
Yes,
thanks for organising.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Yeah,
Bye.
nice to meet you.
See you later.
Bye.
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 Bye.